So with all this complete in the square, we're now going to use it so that we can solve an equation. So notice we have this equal to 0. Now we've talked about methods of solving where we could factor this. But I want to do this by completing the square to show how this process works. It's not always the most efficient, but it's what we're going to do. So I'm going to complete the square on this left-hand side. So I have x squared plus, sorry, that's a 2x. I'll move that 8 out here. We'll let that be minus 0. So half of 2 is 1. So I've got a 1. 1 squared is 1. So I'm going to add a 1. I've got to subtract a 1, right? So I don't change the value of it. So if I complete the square over here, I get x plus 1 squared, boop, 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 minus 9 equals 0. Okay, that's good. I'm going to move this a little bit out of the way, give myself a little room here. So now that was completing the square. So I got there. And now I want to solve this. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. And now I have something squared equals 9. So I'm going to square root it. And notice that we know like 3 squared is 9, but negative 3 squared is also 9. So when you bring in a square root to undo a square, a plus or minus comes with it. So if I square root this side, it just becomes x plus 1. And notice this could be plus or minus the square root of 9. Square root of 9 is 3. So x plus 1 equals plus or minus 3. We'll talk about that operator. Plus or minus 3. Because if I square 3, I get 9. If I square negative 3, I get 9. Keep solving for x. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. Negative 1 plus or minus 3. Plus or minus. That gives me two answers. One of my answers being plus 3. My other answer being minus 3. So negative 1 plus 3 is 2. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. So x can equal both those things. In other words, if I take that 2, plug it back into here, this will equal 0. Plug in that negative 4, this will equal 0. It means if I graph that, y equal to that, those are the x-intercepts. Let me try it with this next one. So I've got x squared, I've got an 8x, push that that positive 15 out, get a little room. Complete the square. Half of 8 is 4. Square that. 16. I added 16. I've got to subtract 16. This part right here is a perfect square. 15 minus 16 is negative 1. Great. Square completed. Now I've got to solve this. So get the square part all alone. Add 1 to both sides. Square root it. When I square root, a plus or minus comes with it. Square root does not do that on its own. Square root itself is strictly positive. I'm bringing the plus or minus because I know that squaring, if I square a negative or square a positive, I get the same answer. Square root of 1 is 1. So I've got plus or minus 1. Subtract 4 from both sides. Keep solving for x. Negative 4 plus or minus 1. Negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. There's my two answers. Great. Try a couple more here. I'm going to need more space than I gave myself, so I'm going to move these. All right, complete the square. So I'm going to take that 2 out of those first two terms. Half of 4 is 2. Complete that square is 4. But that 4 is really worth 8. So I need to subtract 8. So I've got 2 times x plus 2 quantity squared minus 18 equals 0. Okay. Keep going. Let's try and get that thing squared all alone so we can square root it. So I'm going to add 18 to both sides. Divide everything by 2. Great. Now I'm here. Right, I had to divide out the 2. Now I can square root. Square root of 9 is 3. Still solving for x, so subtract 2 from both sides. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. They're there. Great. Let's try this next one. 2 more examples. More space. Let's see. Let's factor 3 out of here. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. Square that is positive 1. But it's really worth 3, so I need to subtract 3. This is that square. I completed that square, right? 10 minus 3 is 7. Oh, I see trouble up ahead. Let me see. Subtract 7 from both sides. Divide by 3. Now, oh, that should have been a negative. That's a negative 7. There we go. There's my trouble. If I square something and get a negative answer, at this point, it looks like I can't do anything. I haven't learned about imaginary numbers yet. So at this point, if I ended up with something squared equals a negative number, I'm just going to say no real solution. If you shove that into your calculator, chances are you'll get an error. So we'll say no real solution. There actually is a solution, but we will let it sit until you're in Algebra 2. Okay, one more example. Factor out that 5. What's that, 12? Half of 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. But it's really 36 times 5. My gosh, what is that? 180. So I need to subtract 180. Okay. So I completed that square to that, right? That is that square, and I've got 5 of them. 135 minus 180 is negative 45. Now the square has been completed, so let's solve this. Add 45 to both sides. Divide by 5. Golden square root. Plus or minus comes with it when you bring in a square root. I've hit 9 a lot. That just happens to be chance. There's nothing magical about that. So x plus 6 is plus or minus 3. Let's subtract 6 from both sides. X equals negative 6 plus or minus 3. So I got negative 9 and negative 3. Negative 6 minus 3. Negative 6 plus 3. X is negative 9 or negative 3. And remember, I can always take one of those values, put it back into here, let x equal that, and my answer would be 0.